Good morning, everyone. I'm Janet Vine, and I'm a member of the Indivisible Yolo Steering Committee, and I serve as the secretary. I'm also the leader of the West Sacramento Action Circle, a subchapter of Indivisible Yolo. Welcome to our series of Zoom interviews for candidates for California's Congressional District 06. Today is Thursday, May 7th, and the time is 9:03. Today, I'm pleased to introduce Martha Guerrero as our candidate for the interview. I'll turn it over now to the moderator, Bruce Cutter.
Thank you, Janet, and thank you, Martha, for agreeing to meet with Indivisible Yolo for this 30-minute Zoom interview. Yeah, my name is Bruce Cutter, and we will start with a 5-minute opening statement from the candidate and followed by a Q&A session. And then we have a 2-minute closing statement as time allows. And the questions were provided to you yesterday evening in advance of this interview, so there should be no surprises. Well, let us begin. And just please take about 5 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Bruce. I just want to say thank you so much to Indivisible Yolo for your leadership and your work to help us move. What we need is a progressive agenda to protect our community. What I've seen in this mega Republican Congressional Congress today is devastating, and it's devastating to our community. What I've done in delivering the results to help our community, to help West Sacramentans get ahead, to bring equity, housing, make things affordable, to help stabilize our city for climate resiliency in getting flood protection funding here in our city. Also, as we've seen, the healthcare system is going to be completely devastated by the cuts from HR 1. CalFresh benefits were an anchor for many of our families to help make ends meet. And with those cuts that we've seen happen through this Republican Congress, it's going to be very harmful to our community. What I've done when I first started as a councilwoman in 2020, when COVID first started, 2019, 2020, when COVID first started, is develop food banks. And I've helped work with their Yolo food bank to continue to help sure that it grows and is sustainable in our community. We started off with like about 100 families, and today we are seeing about 500 families. CalFresh benefits are insufficient to meet the needs for our families. It's insufficient because, first of all, it's always been too little in order for families to be able to make ends meet in what their needs are to put food on the table. Now with HR 1, families are going to see a cut. And it has been really devastating to see how families are continuing to have to maintain and sustain food on the table as they attend Yolo Food Bank all throughout the city. Our older adults, when they have their Social Security checks, that's also insufficient in meeting the needs of our their nutritional needs. So we have what we anticipate cuts to CalFresh benefits this year in Congress as we proceed. Further cuts, deepening poverty, making families, living in deeper poverty and struggling. This is not the way I'd like to see us to move forward, and that's why I decided to step up and run for Congress. I am a mayor of West Sacramento and a licensed social worker where I have served in the Sacramento County through a Turning Point Community Program for 7 years, delivering mental health services, but as a social worker, trying to help families balance their other needs, education, housing support, bringing more stability with community-based resources so families are growing stronger. But the gaps are wider today. And what I see as my own history, my own experience, growing up as a single parent, trying to provide support for my own children when I was growing up, and seeing my children struggle also with early childcare education for their children. And also for my family, we have one child with developmental disability, seeing that there's a bigger gap today to be able to get access to resources. It's a fight for families to get support in the education system. It's a fight for teachers to get the support that they need in order for them to help their students. And that's why I'm going to Congress. I have stood up with our Washington Unified School District's teachers to help fight for better pay and health benefits for our teachers. And I'm so grateful that that fight has come to a successful end where the teachers are getting better pay. I have stood not only with our teachers, but with labor. I have been in my office as a result of the support of labor throughout the years. In the past, firefighters and our local law enforcement agency have been supportive. And during that time, I have expanded mental health clinician support with our law enforcement, bringing more compassionate resources to those in need, addressing homelessness in our community, working with community-based organizations to bring more funding so that they can partner with our city to expand not only support in providing meals and an extension outreach, but through our Mercy Coalition and our Mosaic and our Recovery Cafe. Recovery Cafe, which is helping to address those with just trauma that they've experienced over their lives. And it's not just for those who need mental health support or nutrition. It's for everybody, not just people who are unhoused. So as mayor, I have delivered real results in expanding housing, strengthening public safety, investing in infrastructure, and securing millions in state and federal funding, and stabilizing our community so that everybody here who is working receives healthcare benefits, the best pay in the region, and that we have a strong infrastructure. So I'm running for Congress because we need leaders who have that experience, who have delivered the results, who are directly accountable to their people. And I am asking for the support of those who are going to vote and before June 2nd to support my campaign for Congress. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. Now we begin the Q&A part of this interview. Please take about 3 minutes to explain your position on issues specific and important to West Sacramento, such as climate resilience and infrastructure needs.
Thank you, Bruce. What we have worked on since I've been mayor and secured is $1 billion in New Start funding to protect our city from floods. Flood protection is a result of climate change. We are seeing an intensity of heat, and what's going to happen is it creates a dynamic, weather patterns where we are prone in those weather patterns to flood. So I've been working with Congresswoman Matsui, who has worked with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to put in the budget funding for flood protection and to continue that effort. But also, we need to have stronger pumps, and we need to have other resources to reduce if there's a downpour, to get the water out of the city. So that helps us to stay safe and resistant from being prone to floods. The other infrastructure needs has been to have safer roads. As a city, we are an industrial town, and it's not been very easy to access from one side of the city to the other safely if you're trying to go on your bicycle. So we've increased the number of bicycle paths and tried to bring better connectivity. And we worked with our regional partners in the Sacramento Area Council of Governments. As they receive federal funding, we partner with them to apply, and we have been very successful in not only federal but state funding here in our city, making sure that as people who are traveling, whether it be children, an older adult, those that are wanting to get out of their cars, because we do have to reduce gas emissions. That infrastructure demand is significant here in our city, and I'd like to be able to expand that throughout the region so there's better connectivity for everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Next, we have a series of questions that we expect you to answer very briefly, with a yes or no if possible, but no more than 3 words. After answering all the questions, we hope you'll use your remaining time to go back and explain your reasoning for the most complex issues and nuanced answers. And so I'm going to first read the questions one by one, and you'll give me the short answers, and then we'll post the questions in the chat again, and then you can address them. You'll have a longer period of time. So that's the plan. So for the short answers, have you or would you ever receive funding from AIPAC, pharmaceutical companies, oil companies, or any corporate PACs?
I have not received any funding and asked for any funding.
Do you believe in meeting with voters at town hall events where constituents can ask live questions? And if so, how often?
Yes, I've held town hall events, and I will.
Thank you. Do you believe that HUD funding should be restored and or that other federal tools such as regulations and tax credits be used to address housing issues and homelessness services?
Yes, absolutely. I've been advocating for that as mayor.
Do you believe Medicare for all should be an achievable goal for the Democrats when they next control the White House and Congress?
Yes, Medicare for all should be on the table, as well as healthcare for all and reducing medication costs as well.
And the last question is, as a U.S. representative, are there any specific legislative or oversight actions that you would support to limit the harmful or unjust activities of immigration and customs enforcement?
I would defund ICE because they eroded the public's trust, and we need to redo that whole process.
Okay, and so that's great. That was nice. Now with the remainder of your time, please explain your reasoning for the most complex issues and nuanced answers to any or all of the above questions.
Thank you so much. I would take a look at financing housing and maintaining housing stability in many different levels. First, to build more affordable housing, we need to step in and make sure that we have grants and opportunities, as West Sacramento has received, to not only have housing for the construction of housing, but to make sure that it is along transit corridors so that people are able to access public transit immediately, and to build public transit that is accessible to people to get to and from work in a way that is quick, like I've seen through our program on demand via program that has been able to get people to school and to work much quicker and easier. Public transit, sometimes a bus, does not get people their fixed route. And so I like to be able to bridge any resources, whether it be public transit on a bus or via making sure that the people get to school, and for our older adults to get access to healthcare. In addition, I'd like to provide rent stabilization resources. So I will ask for funding to provide support for those that are barely making ends meet. And rent is sometimes really difficult to pay when you're paying too much for grocery bills or gas. The gas prices are pretty significant. So when we're talking about affordable housing, we're talking about a number of things that are impacting that. That includes the tariffs that are going up. So the cost for housing construction, in order for the housing construction costs to go down, we need to eliminate the tariffs that are being imposed in other countries and are increasing the cost locally to us. In addition, the Iran war is increasing gas prices. In order for us to be able to afford the supplies that we need to be able to build, we need to stop the war. We need to come back and bring all that funding that is being spent out there to be able to pay for some of these things that are necessary for our own community. In addition, what you mentioned about ICE, billions of dollars went to the Department of Homeland Security, a waste of money for detention centers and for those that are being detained and also dragged out of their homes, out of their jobs. These are people that have had meaningful employment, that have been, taking care of their families and have been paying taxes and supporting our community here. And so now they're terrified, and it's created a very difficult situation for families here who are being torn apart. That's why there's no trust in ICE. And I would defund that and pretty much eliminate that program and restart whatever we need for border security that is safe and more trustworthy, and just focus on border security and not going in and causing harm to our community and violating our civil rights. Also, in taking a look at Medicare and healthcare for all, because HR1 has completely defunded what we've established in our healthcare system, very supportive of that. We also need to have waivers and things to inject funding immediately into our communities so that we can stabilize the healthcare system. We need to pay our nurses better and making sure that mental health care is stable as well. It's always been in the back, burner, not enough services for mental health stability. And so I don't know if my time is up. Do I need a hand? I don't have the time.
No, we scheduled quite a bit of time for this, so you have technically until 9:30. Just to go one by one through these questions. Can you see them in the chat?
Yeah. No, I'm having just my face on the chat. I see. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, and on corporate PACs, I will not accept corporate PACs. I believe that as a congressional candidate, you have to be free from just having any influence from PACs. And generally speaking, I've not really received any money from PACs. Period. I've been raising grassroots money here from friends and labor. So it's PAC money is just been it's just in a primary. This is not something that anybody is able to access that I've seen, period. And this is a big group of Democrats that are running. And so and so I've been focused not on PAC money at all. I don't have any interest in corporate PAC money. In any pharmaceutical companies, I don't have I don't have any contact with them and don't know them very well. In AIPAC, I don't even know who works in AIPAC. I don't know if they're in our interest or interested in our race. So I have no idea what's going on there. So I'm not involved in any of that. And, would probably focus on receiving money from those that are supporting, what I am running for. And fundraising, yes, that makes it very challenging. It's a very expensive election to try to get your name out. And I would like to, hope that what I've accomplished here in West Sacramento is going to get the word out that I've accomplished quite a bit for this city. It's a thriving city, and I constantly push for equity, making sure that, last night we fought for Three Sisters Garden to be able to have a 10-year lease. And that's because they are providing free food and, vegetables, something I fought for as a 25-year legislative advocate. I have been fighting for the safety net and getting fresh fruit and vegetables on people's tables, when early on in the SNAP program, many, many years ago, that was not an area that was fully covered, and worked on advocating for that. Early childcare education is another area to be able to get access to education. I don't see that as one of your questions, but the public education system is being dismantled as we speak. We're having leadership that is not interested, and I'm going to be fighting for that as well. We need to have a strong start for our early learners, families that need that support. And the public education system needs funding, not only for having teachers get the tools, but for infrastructure, so that they are being able to deliver a strong education system for our children in a place that's safe and healthy for them to be able to learn. And taking a look at, let's see, I think I covered mostly everything that you have in your questions. And town halls, I'm a strong advocate for town halls. I've held town halls as mayor, and I will continue to do so. I strongly believe what we need is hearing from our people, and that's what I've done as mayor. That's one of the reasons why we have a $63 million investment in one of our most underinvested areas of our community, Bright Park, in a town hall. I've heard from the people that they were interested in getting Bright Park renovated and a safe space for our children to play in the Brighton Broderick area and to have a pool. That was the main thing they've asked for, was a pool. And now we are going to have a $63 million investment. 15 million of that is coming from federal funding. We were one of the 4 recipients in the state of California to receive that funding to purchase Bright Park from Washington Unified School District. And the rest of the funding is going to be investing in renovating Bright Park so that we have a big aquatic center for our families It also helps with climate resilience, having a place for our families to go to cool down and to stay, healthy, because where that part of town is their older homes, and they don't have air conditioning and limited resources to stay cool. So this is going to be providing a place for families to be able to go to stay cool, and just to be able to have a recreational support for children. They could learn skills of how to swim. We're surrounded by water. We needed to have that directly accessible to families, our most underserved family of our not only community but state. As far as how we rank in those that are lower socioeconomic, Bright Park is one of the lowest ranked in the state of California. So it has been a priority for me to be able to invest in resources during COVID. When First Five asked for an additional allocation to help for new mothers who are pretty much going home and not having additional support, we invested in that. And a majority of the families that receive that support, from having a public nurse going into their home and making sure that as a new mother, they received the additional support, such as assessment for their own health and mental health and their child's well-being. A majority of them were Spanish speaking. And so that for me was just a validation that our families in that area are in deep need of healthcare support, especially during COVID, when families were terrified of going to a healthcare setting for fear of their own well-being. So it kind of restored and, just restored trust that the healthcare setting is safe for families. And a lot of them receive support for postpartum care. And as a single mother myself of twins, I know that that would have been, deeply appreciated, because I did have postpartum depression. And having somebody to go to your home and talk to you in a way that is supportive was, I think, very important for our young mothers. The other area in our most underserved area of our community is Sacramento Avenue. We're working on engaging in the community so that big street is much safer. It used to be like a main street, so that people, go through our city and go from one end of town to the other. And we're trying to narrow that and create that to be a safer street to cross. Unfortunately, there have been accidents. So we're trying to create a safer place for people to cross. So that part of infrastructure, along with I Street, a new I Street bridge, which is a 2-lane, very narrow bridge, and waiting has caused us to have to see an increased over $100 million overbid for what we anticipated in spending. And that big infrastructure project is a big project, not only for West Sacramento, but for our entire region, to be able to connect people safely. And I'm working really hard with Sacramento so that we receive funding for that bridge. These are all the projects that I have been working on, including building more housing and more affordable housing in West Sacramento. We've been very successful with our inclusionary housing program to be able to bring in funding, not only state and federal funding, but local funding, to be able to match that. Being a pro-housing designated city from the state of California, and that's as a result of the policy changes that I made as mayor to reduce the cost, where we have Washington Commons, an ability for older adults and single adults and adults who just want to have a place where they can commune and, engage socially. That program helped for them to build an affordable housing model, a very unique model, and also a housing model has been developed for young single adults going to college. So we have a model of affordable housing for young adults going to college that are single parents who have access to affordable. That could have been very helpful for me as well as I was going to college. These are all things that I've experienced and seen, come to fruition. The other is that I've heard from our town hall is from Mary, whose young child is developmentally disabled. She was always really concerned that her, she would pass away and her child would be left alone. She wanted a living facility for her developmentally disabled child. That is now being constructed with the support of West Sacramento and other funding sources, because we're backing those funding sources as a city. That housing is being developed. So when I go to town halls, I do see that there are areas and gaps that a city can fill. I do see that as a congressional candidate where we can continue to fill those gaps. Working directly with the people is how a town hall is thriving to get us to connect with the people. And that's what I would continue to accomplish, as a congressional member and as a social worker. I strongly believe in connecting with our community. Knowing what I've experienced as a therapist working in Sacramento County, I want to be able to create more spaces, such as the Recovery Cafe, where people can go to receive support. And I'm in touch and directly, constantly with the Recovery Cafe, finding ways on how we can help people with trauma and other needs find the resources they need so that they can continue to develop and succeed in life, no matter where they are. And just wanted to see if my time is up yet.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much. Since we do have just a couple minutes extra, I could ask you why you think you will be the best candidate to beat Kevin Kiley in November.
Well, I am the best candidate to beat Kevin Kiley in November. My experience, 25 years in public service, and also as mayor of West Sacramento, and as a social worker, licensed social worker, delivering services here in our region for almost underserved clients who are in deep need. I understand directly how those needs need to be met, and I know from my experience as working on federal issues, on state issues, I know where the gaps are. I've worked on these programs. I know how the safety net can help people become more self-sufficient. People don't want to rely on public benefits. They want to be going to work, being able to take care of their families. We also need a strong education system. We also need support for working families through early childcare education. We need to reduce the cost of living, making sure that we have affordable housing and being able to afford your groceries. And so we do need to restore, what the cuts have been made there. I get what that impact is at local government levels, where county services, as you'll start seeing cuts in county services, that's going to be devastating to the people in our community, our most vulnerable residents. You'll start seeing the cuts in hospital care. I get how that works directly, and that's what I would work and fight for, to make sure that we can open up access and support for all those programs. So that's why I believe in ensuring that we also have civil rights restored, because of what's happened in this Trump administration and the MAGA Republicans, where Kiley is still receiving money from. In order for him to succeed, we need to fight that. We need to fight it with the votes coming in, this June 2nd, in order for us to win back this seat. And we have an opportunity to do that, and I'm the best candidate for that.
Okay, thank you very much. And now, though, we just have maybe a minute and a half, if you'd like to conclude with a closing statement.
Well, thank you so much to Indivisible, Yolo, and Indivisible, all throughout California. You are a force for change, and I'm so grateful for you and your presence, because if it hadn't been for you, sometimes I feel like, people feel there is a sense of no support and despair. But you have brought power back to the people's voice, and I strongly support that. And I am looking forward to working with you, winning in Congress, our relationship, moving forward together. We need to achieve that. I have built coalitions in order for us to be able to succeed in representing the people, the people's voice, and elevating the people's voice. And that's what I'll do for Congress. I'll make sure that these voices are heard and be their best representative. So I greatly appreciate all that you do and this opportunity to share why I'm running for Congress and my positions. And I look forward to working with you as we have the next few weeks left to see what happens in this congressional race.
Thank you, Mayor Guerrero. It is vital for West Sacramento residents to have this opportunity to hear directly from the candidates in this race, and we really appreciate you taking the time to help us better understand you and this race for the Congressional District 6 in California. Thank you.
Thank you.